Things you should know that no one tells you. In this video, I'm going to cover the most common catchwords in the internet business. CMS, WordPress, SSL, PPC. I'll get into explaining what is analytics, webmaster, domains, hostings, why you should keep them in your name, and why you should manage the payment and to ensure that they're currently up to date. I'm also going to explain how to keep yourself out of harm's way. That comes to copyright violations, and it goes as far as prison. How to protect yourself, how to save money, how to prevent yourself from any type of heartache or mishaps in the internet world. Now, the reason I've labeled this things you should know that no one tells you is I find that a lot of programmers, website designers, internet marketers, they like to believe that everyone knows this, because as a programmer, which I started as a programmer, moved to a designer, and then into internet marketing, is I find that we have a tendency of believing that everyone knows what we know. And then we proceed to talk at that level, forgetting that we need to build a foundation so that person understands, so they're capable of making intelligent decisions. And it's when people use this for nefarious reasons, to take advantage of you, to charge you extra fees, or take your website hostage, that's when problems occur and arise. And that's the purpose of this video. This is why I've started teaching, and this is why this video is free and will remain free, is that this information will protect you, will help you, and it'll build a foundation for a successful running website and relationship with anybody who is an internet professional. So the very first thing I'm going to start is things to own and things to know. Very first thing I'm going to work on is going to be domains and hostings. You should own these. I don't care how long you've known your designer, programmer, internet marketer, who's ever hosting your website, whoever is registering a domain name. If you lose one of these, your website's dead. And if you depend on your business to bring you your leads, your customers, to run your everyday operations, you need to have control of these. Things happen in the world. People don't wake up. Things happen when they go driving. If you do not have these things in your name and you lose them, they're not registered, the registration has ran out or expired, all of a sudden your business, you're out. So give a good example of a domain name, why this is important. And I'm going to work through some personal experiences and also through experiences my customers have had, my now customers. Now, first part with domain name. Do not use a domain name branded email like info@mydomain.com. If you lose that domain name, all of a sudden all emails that go through there don't come in. If someone, like one of my customers had this happen, their domain expired and their programmer didn't tell them. They came to this website instead, and a person in Africa bought that domain name, created a catch-all email account to catch any and all email going through it, and they got monthly bank statements, they got all reports, they got credit card information, and they're able to go, forgot username, forgot password, send it to an email account, and next thing you know, the person had their identity theft stolen. I recommend that the domain name and your hosting, and even for your financial institution, that you use a third-party email to register it. So it's Gmail. And Gmail, in the professional world, as far as third-party hosting goes, third-party email addresses, they're the best one. AOL, Yahoo, Hotmail, they don't have that professional look. You have top-line professional look being branded email addresses, which Gmail can go and grab those and bring them in with that branded look, but you're still going to have your mybusiness@gmail.com or mybusinessname@gmail.com. So always have Gmail name, register the domain, and make sure that your domain name is always in your name so you don't lose it. Now, the next thing is I'm going to explain what a domain name is. So, a domain name is nothing more than an address plate. It's like on your house. I'm going to use my favorite analogy. 123 Main Street. That's just an address plate. There's nothing stored. There's no house that's stored on that address plate. Hosting is the foundation. It is where you store your files. It's where you store all your content. And content is a catch-all word for audio, video, text, It is also the storage of your website. So the hosting is your house. Your hosting exists on the cloud. And the cloud is all your files stored somewhere around the world on multiple computers or one computer that is copying itself across different servers. You can only access it with its IP number, which may be something as 11.9.8.3, whatever it is. It looks very technical, not easy to remember. But that's the cloud. It's just how you access it. But the domain name, that domain name attaches to the hosting. Now you got your branding. Now it's mydomain.com, and that domain forwards to your website, and it shows all your files, all your information, and all of a sudden you've got this beautiful website that is yours, that you own. So what I recommend for your hosting, and hosting is a very important thing, is that you have someone who specializes in the hosting, who does just hosting, nothing else. On that hosting account, you should be allowed to do unlimited domain names. And that hosting account should be able to host your email without you paying anything extra. A host for a website that's receiving between 100 to 500 users per day should be between $4.95 and $6.95 per month. If you pay anything more than that, you're getting ripped off. Now, when you get over a certain amount, you should be at that point doing $9.95 for business, $12.95 and growing with you. And I'll get into shared dedicated hosting and growth hosting. But your hosting should be a company that just focuses on that. And as I said, when I get into hosting, I'll explain why. The very first area I'm going to cover is going to be within the domain name. So this is a sub area to domains. I find that people will typically register their business name before they register their domain name. So they'll go and register that domain name with the city, and they'll register my business name or their business name with the city. And it'll be like, this is my business, LLC. And then they'll try and go get the domain name. And the majority of the time, in fact, I've rarely seen this happen unless it's a very unique business name, the domain name is taken. And that person at that point in time will go find another domain name. Now, I had a client who made this mistake. Their business name, I'm just going to get the first part, just to protect him, was Boulder. And he went and looked for his domain. So it was Boulder, that's something else, but again, I'm going to protect him. And he went online looking for his domain name, couldn't find it. He'd already registered that with the state. He then goes and registers another domain. This one starts with Quarry. So now he gets his bank account, he gets his credit card processing, everything through Boulder. Attach to Quarry, start selling product. People are like, okay, here we're buying a product, we get our credit card statement, shows that we purchased this product. Why does it say Boulder? How did this person get information? Who are they? We would get calls almost weekly saying, who are you? We didn't authorize this. How did you get this? Or they just canceled the credit card and reported him for fraud because they're expecting something from Quarry. Now keep in mind, this was a few years ago. Nowadays, people are even less trusting. If they're getting bounced around to a different website or going to a different area to pay that doesn't look like PayPal or some recognized name, they're immediately put off guard. What's going on? And they're not trusting. So we had to fix this with a DBA and a trade name, and that was still an ad hoc fix. Eventually, we just got a whole company name for Quarry and moved everything over so that we had that congruency. And that congruency is also important when you are running AdWords and you're trying to pay less in your AdWords. And I'll show you in my other videos how to do that with AdWords. Now the next thing that I have, which is choosing a domain. One of the things I say when you're setting up and you're choosing your domain is to go check synonyms. Go to anything that is like a generator for domain names. I'm not affiliated with these two companies, but namestation.com is a great generator for domain names. You can type in what is your major category and then other words that match your business, and it'll give you a list of domain names that are available that match your query. Next one is instant domain search. So if you have a fairly good idea of a domain name you want to use, maybe you've made the mistake of going and get a business name first, but you want to go look and see if a domain name is available. You type it in there, you type it without that suffix, the .com, .net, whatever it is, and hit search. I'll tell you all the ones that are available and all the ones that are for sale, and I'll walk you through the process of buying the domain name. Now, once you've found a domain that you like, run it through the next gamut. First of all, make sure it doesn't have a number in it, like 123mybusiness.com. People forget that quickly. People only remember between 10 to 12 characters, at most 15 characters, and characters are being letters. Don't use hyphens or dashes. People, again, they forget them. So when you're doing your marketing, you don't want to make your awareness, branding, and marketing harder than it should be. Second of all, don't get creative. Don't try to use words like business and spelling it B-I-Z-N-E-S-S. Make it something that's easy to spell, something that's not hard to remember. And one of my tests when I'm working with a domain name is I'll call 10, 15 people, and if I got a domain name that I like, I'll run it past them. First, I'll run it past them and say, hey, here's my domain name. I'm doing a test. Spell it. And I have them spell it. The average ability for people to spell nowadays has dropped dramatically, especially at the age of 30, because every phone, every device, every computer has autocorrect. So they don't need to worry about it. If they can just get within the general vicinity, boom, that's the word. People by the age of 35 don't have the issue, but they have another norm that's set in place. And one thing I tell people is once a norm has established itself on the internet, it's very hard and slow to change. And so you got people on the age of 30 who are not spelling correctly, and they're forgetting words very quickly. Now, people over the age of 30, 35 had some other issues. And so when you're getting your domain name, make sure that you register with a .com if you can. This is a cautionary tale from my side. When I first was getting into the business, I helped a nonprofit set up their domain, and they got a .org. And almost weekly, we get people calling, website's broken. It's not coming up. It's not working. Be like, yeah, it is. Like, no, it's not working. It's not. We're just keep trying it. And I go in there, I type it in. I say, yeah, it's working. He said, no, it's not working. And I was like, oh, it's this website.org. They said, oh, yeah, internet problem, issues. And what I started finding out is no matter how much marketing we did with .org, people would automatically put that suffix .com on it, and they just type it in without thinking. So people over the age of 35, we do that automatically. Now, it's changing. And people under the age of 30 will just go into Google and just type in the domain name, and Google figures out what is the authority domain, and they'll show the top result. So people can get away with a .io or .org and not have to have the .com, but it's still very good practice to have the .com. I have another cautionary tale, this with a domain name, where a person lost a domain, it was a .com, and they went and got a .net. They changed all their marketing, all their advertising, went to .net. And that person, within a short amount of time, lost their practice because everyone kept going .com. And the competitor who bought the .com, because what happened is their programmer had it at .com, didn't pay it. And the competitor had a reserve to buy it when it expired. And this was a few years ago, before domains were held for a long time where you could buy them back. And this competitor bought it and got all the business. So all this .net marketing helped this .com competitor who purchased it from him. So make sure you're choosing your domain name, that you go through this test. And the other part of this test, I mentioned when you're calling your friends and you ask them to spell your domain name, tell them the domain name, and then wait a couple days and call back. Hey, do you remember that domain name? See how many of them remember. More than half of them remember. You got a domain name that is easy to remember, rolls off the tongue, and they can easily spell it. That's a good domain name. From there, getting your domain name, I recommend that you go with a company, like you can go with GoDaddy, which is specialized in domain. I recommend a company called Namecheap.com. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. And for those who don't know, if a person does not tell you what they're affiliated with, that is a crime, federal crime. So you always need to tell someone, hey, I'm affiliated with this, and I'm not affiliated with Namecheap. So the reason why I recommend Namecheap is there's this thing called who.is. That's a website. It's who.is. You go to any search engine, you go to your URL bar, type in who.is, and if you type in your domain name, chances are all your information is there that you use to register it. You'll have your address, your name, who's hosting the domain name. It'll tell them sometimes the phone number and email address. It'll provide all this information for free. And there's people who go out and scrape this. And scraping is where they run a program that goes and takes all this information of anybody who's registered a new domain name, and they've taken it and now it's available to the world. You do not want to have this available for the public with your domain name. So I recommend with Namecheap you get the free Privacy Guard or WhoisGuard. There's a lot of names for it, but it's typically Privacy Guard or WhoisGuard. See, GoDaddy right now is running a special where you get 1 year with Whois for free. But I believe domain registration should always include it and always have it, and it should not be an extra cost. Namecheap gives it to you for free. That's why I recommend them. I wish GoDaddy would do them for free for life, and that it's not an option that you can just opt out of, because it is that important. It's good to have that protection. To also ensure you don't get additional spam calls, because nowadays spam seems to be taking over, where we're getting all these people calling saying, hey, we got this thing we're selling. Well, you register a domain name and you don't use Privacy Guard, those numbers are going to increase. So registering, which is what I've been talking about, use the Privacy Guard. Next thing when you're registering, try to get it where it's at least 3 years registered. If you go with 1 year, you are telling companies like Google and Bing that I'm kind of testing this. I'm not sure if I actually want to stay in business. And this is just an idea. And see, Google and Bing, but I'm going to focus on Google, and I'm going to be using Google throughout this, they're the gorilla. They are the massive dominator of the search industry. And Google is doing it with searching. And if you go to Google and you have to get to page 3, 4, 5, or 6 to find the page you're looking for, it's a bad search experience. You do it enough times and you're not going to be using Google, you're going to be looking at Bing. So Google is trying to make sure that every website they show on that first page is the website where you want to go. And they even are getting to where they're predicting what you're looking for, what you're typing in. Common searches, common areas. They even watch what places you go into, and they'll try tailor searches around where you're walking out of. So if you're looking at a purse shop and you open up your phone, chances are you're going to be looking for purse reviews, purse prices, etc., and they'll try to predict what you're looking for. But when you're trying to get into the search engine and you're trying to get your really good organic ranking where you're on that first page, you have to prove to Google that you are the site that they should be sending searchers to. And if you've only got a year registration, you're not telling Google that you're going to be there for a long time. And Google's saying to themselves, man, if I send all these customers to them, all these visitors, and they're going to be gone in a year, what's the point? If you register for 3 years, at that point in time, they believe you got some skin in the game, and they'll give you a boost for that. And what I find in the search and organic rankings, which I'll get into in my SEO and SEM videos, is when you get to the top page, the first page I should say, the things that work a person up to that very first position is very minor. Like having a keyword in a domain name does help. Having a domain name registered for 3 years helps a lot. Having a secured SSL, which I'll get to, also helps. Those little things will notch you and get you to the top position of Google. So make sure you at least register it for 3 years. Very, very good idea to do. And it'll also help with your AdWords costs. So when I get into my AdWords videos, it'll show you how having that will give you a higher quality score, which lowers the amount that you pay per click. So I'm going to move on to the hosting. And the very first thing I want to say with hosting is make sure you have control. If you're working with a programmer, it's okay to give them the cPanel access. It's okay to make them an FTP account. When they're done, or when you're no longer working with them, change your password, move on to another person. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go to shared and dedicated hosting. So I'm going to clear this off here and make some room for diagrams. And I'm going to work through my favorite diagram. And this is explaining why hosting costs have dropped dramatically since the late 90s and early 2000s. In the early 90s, when websites, the internet was coming available, you had to have a computer box that had the resources, had an operating system that was capable of running the website, and you also had the internet cord that connected it to the cloud and to the world. You had to own this box, you had to own the maintenance, you had to cover the updates, and you had to cover the operating system. Very expensive. Now, I may have the dates wrong, but the very first instance when I ran into this was cPanel. And cPanel developed a way of partitioning out the resources of the box. So if this was the drive and the resources, you can imagine where it's creating all these partitions inside of this computer box. Now with these partitions, you could have sorry, I had to change our marker here. You could have this area and this area for your website. Somebody over here could have this area over here. Somebody over here could have this area for their website. And what happens is you guys share the cost. Now the very first question / concern that I get from this is, if they get hacked, does that mean my website's gonna get hacked? Am I gonna get a virus? Am I gonna have problems? No. I've never seen it happen in my time in the recent, well, probably in the last 10 years, I've never seen it happen. But what I do see happens is that you'll have a website that's hosting videos, or they're doing a lot of images. They get a lot of traffic coming to the website. And because you're on a box, you're sharing resources. So if these people are taking a lot of resources, the internet speed, the processing power, the RAM, you're going to suffer. Your website's going to get really slow. If your website does not come up within the attention span of the average browser, or the average, as I say, person who's glimpsing or moving along very quickly on the internet, and that time is about 6 to 8 seconds. If your website doesn't come up within that 6 to 8 seconds, you've just lost your visitor. They're going somewhere else. And I need to clarify that because that's some bad English on my part. When people are going through looking for information, they're trying to find where they want to go. They're trying to make sure that this website is what they want, that this is what they need. And if you imagine they're in a car and they're going 75 to 80 miles down the highway, and you're nothing more than a little billboard, they're quickly glimpsing at it, seeing it, and they're looking for specific keywords. If they like what they see, they'll slow down and wait for another indicator to let them know, hey, this is what we want. And then eventually they'll slow down some more till you can get them to stay and read and look at your website. But the average person, if they don't know who you are, they're moving very quickly. They're looking for specific keywords, going back out, going back in. And if your website's not coming up quickly because someone's taking all the resources, you've just lost a lead. You've just lost a customer. So that's what I find, is that companies that do just shared hosting, they overstuff their boxes. And what that means is somebody is overselling the amount of resources on that box, and they're not watching. They're just collecting their money, collecting their check. If you work with a company that is very diligent on making sure that their boxes are not overstuffed, then you don't have the resource issues. And if someone starts taking a lot of resources, that company will say to that website, hey, move to another box, go to a bigger hosting, and they'll move them up. Now, dedicated hosting is where you begin the process of buying your own box and having your own resources. That's when you've gotten big enough to warrant your own website, your own tower, your own internet. Now, what I tell people is look at your hosting company. A good hosting company will grow with you. So if you outgrow the shared hosting, you've gone through the $495 plan, and then you moved up to $995 business plan, and you got into the highest for $1295, and you're getting a lot of customers and you're still going out of resources, you should have a company that should say, hey, listen, we got a dedicated host here. We can move your website over to it. What I find if you're in a website host that does not have a dedicated host area is they'll just shut down your website saying insufficient resources. And it could take you days, if not weeks, to rectify the issue and get your website moved. You have to get on a programmer's clock, you got to get on someone who's capable of moving the website for you, or you got to wait for the company you're trying to get to, a dedicated hosting, to move it for you as well, your website. It takes time. It's very beneficial to have a company that moves with you. Now, I am an affiliate of this place called SiteGround.com, and if you go down below this video, and this video is going to be broken into 2 parts, maybe 3. If you scroll down, you'll get a list of recommendations. You'll see my SiteGround link there, and you can click it to go and buy the hosting. And I recommend the Grow Big account because it gives you the unlimited domains. If you don't want to go with the shared hosting and my recommendation for hosting, always get a shared hosting that begins with unlimited domains. So if you have domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, domain 4, you should not have hosting 1, hosting 2, hosting 3, hosting 4. You should have them all, the domains, connected to one host. And hosting companies will allow you to have unlimited domains. So you can sub-partition out your partition within cPanel and create more websites. Your host should also include unlimited emails. You do not pay extra for that. That is included with hosting. That is not an additional cost. So again, make sure it says unlimited emails. And if you're running Gmail, Gmail can go onto the host and pull all of the emails, and you can send and receive underneath your branded email account, your branded domain email account, I should say. Next thing, it should include a free and always available SSL. I believe that when you're first getting started out and your website's building, either being e-commerce or even if you're just collecting leads or subscribers for an email list, secure your website. What a secured website looks like, and again, I'm going to wipe some things off here. Secured website will have an S at the end, and you'll see it as HTTPS. That means that it is secured, and it stands for Socket Secured Layer, and they come in varying flavors. 128-bit, you also have 256, 512, and what that means is that if I'm sitting here and I'm typing in my name on the website, every character I type in is being randomized, either with 512 random characters. So a person, by theory, can't hack in or can't watch what I'm typing, and where this information is stored in a database, they can't get it. It's all secured. Also, companies can't track you coming into a secured website. They can't track what you're doing on that website. So it gives you peace of mind knowing that when you come into the website, nobody's watching you, nobody's following you. Cookies are not reporting back. It just says you've entered this website and nothing else. Also, with an SSL, it's registered to the person who's hosting that account. So it says that I'm a real person with a real business. I'm not some company who's spoofing or creating a fake phone name in some unknown country who's trying to infect your computer. I'm a real person. Here's how you can reach me and see that I'm a real person by my SSL certificate. So it gives you a lot of protection, and that should be included. And SSL with the secured at the end of the HTTPS also gives you increased ranking. And Google is moving all of their websites to HTTPS. In fact, I believe they've already done that. But they're giving you a boost, and I think they've already begun doing that as well, for having your website secured. So that way it's a trusted website. So make sure that's included. And SiteGround gives you that. I also like SiteGround because I'm a very big fan of hosting companies that specialize in specific CMS systems, which I'll be getting to in just a moment. And CMS systems are content management systems. And SiteGround served as a hosting company for WordPress and Joomla, the major companies. So I'm going to start that in part 2, which will be the next video. I have to cut that part off at the end.
Still